Is World's Strongest Man becoming the new CrossFit Games? No, it bloody isn't. It's just ludicrous to say strongman is getting too light and it's becoming CrossFit. It's one of the stupidest things I've seen being said on the internet. World's Strongest Man, since it started, was about being a strength athlete with a mixture of events from static lifting to dynamic moving and throwing events. I've seen way too many comments since Novikov won this weekend saying the only reason he won is because it's getting too light and it's all about moving and it's all about, there's no heavy lifting going on. Well, firstly, if strongman was just about heavy lifting, it would be called powerlifting. We have a sport for that. People go bench, squat and deadlift. The biggest total wins. There's some incredible athletes that do it. And a lot of the strongmen actually cross over extremely well. Graham Hicks, for instance, amazing powerlifter. Hafthor Bjornsson, someone that managed to cross over, do powerlifting extremely well. There's a handful of other guys that I could include in that list. But strongman is all about a mixture of events. The way I try and describe it to people that don't know too much about strongman is to look at it as a strength decathlon. It's about being extremely good in multiple different events and avenues of strength. So to be an elite level strongman, yes, you need to be statically strong. You need to be able to move well with weights. You need to be able to throw. You need to be able to adapt to different types of equipment. There's lots of different traits that you need to have to be an exceptional elite level athlete. So if we go back to the first ever World's Strongest Man, back in 1977, there was 10 events and they tested all aspects of strength, from wrist rolling, they had bar bending, they had tire throwing, there was squatting, there was deadlifting, there was barrel pressing, they did a tug of war. It wasn't just about an extremely heavy weight lifted up and put it back down. There was lots of different tests and that's where it all started from. So if we go through the years and look at the events and the weights that were used, it's clear to see the sport is not going backwards. It's getting heavier, it's still challenging, and these guys should not be compared to CrossFit athletes. So we spoke about the very first contest, but then up to the 90s, we had events like the pole push, we had car flip, we had the Basque circle, we had tire flips, carry and drags. Then into the noughties, we were looking at things like the Fingal's Finger, 125 kilo farmer's walk for 75 meters. The last time they did a log medley was back in 2003, and there was only 4 logs ranging from 135 kilos up to 165 kilos. In 2008, the car walk was 410 kilos. It wasn't until 2015 that the Atlas stones went up to 210 kilos. And strangely, the fastest time before this year was Brian Shaw in the 2015 show, where he hit all 5 stones in 24.5 seconds. This year, Tom Stoltman did all 5 in under 20 seconds. It just shows that these guys are just getting better, they're getting stronger, they're getting faster. The sport is not getting easier. So over the last few years, I've become one of the biggest critics towards World's Strongest Man. I probably cause them more headaches than a lot of people with the way I challenge things and I question things. But you have to be fair at times as well. World's Strongest Man this year did a fantastic job just to make sure this competition went ahead. And when I see people criticising the events, to me it just seems foolish because these events were solid strongman events. Last year they did a yoke that I vocally pointed out was too heavy. Obviously I got injured on it, other athletes hurt themselves on it, and it was a last minute change. I'm glad they've kind of listened to that and put a sensible yoke in this year. What we don't want to see is athletes getting destroyed every year. The sport is getting tougher. The whole standard of the sport is getting higher. We've always had the incredible elite athletes. But honestly, this year, I can look at those 25 guys and say there was not one weak athlete in this competition. Every single one of them, from the performances in the heats to the performances in the final, did some incredible things. And some of the performances this year were the best we've ever seen. Looking at the 18-inch deadlift, Novikov hits a World's Strongest Man record. Tom Stoltman hitting a record on the Atlas stones. Other fantastic performances. Yes, of course, we'd love to see certain athletes there, such as Kiliashkovsky, who unfortunately missed out on injury. Last year's champion, Lissis, missing out on injury. But it's not to say if they were in this competition that they'd win. Sure, they'd be in with a chance, but the standard now is super high. And I think sometimes we all forget that. We look at what the guys did 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, and we remember them. And I sometimes get caught up with how I vision Zydrunas in his prime. To me, he's the greatest. But there's a point where his performances started to come down, and then the younger guys started to get better. And I think we've just seen that with some of the guys that we always look up to. They're not performing maybe at that top level that they used to. They've come down slightly. The other guys are getting better and better, and that's all it is. The events are still extremely heavy, getting heavier each year almost, but the athletes are improving at such a rate. You start going too heavy, and then we just start destroying athletes, and then we'll be criticising, saying everything's too heavy. So it's one of those situations where someone's always going to say something, and I've been vocal enough and criticised World's Strongest Man enough, but sometimes you've got to stick up for people, and in this scenario I think they got the weights right for the event. I think it was an incredible contest, and I cannot wait to watch it later in the year. While you're here, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my awesome strength content.